guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He is a male RN, registered nurse, and he's going to share a very entertaining and revealing story about his adventures in that line of work, everything he's observed, both behind the scenes and quite in the front, and also backing up the stereotype about the other RNs. As many of you guys are well aware from a lot of the stories I've shared both on this channel and the other, there's definitely a stereotype of what goes on behind the scene at the hospitals, medical centers, medical offices with the RNs, and how so many guys who were married to or involved with one got really burned because, let's just say, they get very frisky behind the scenes at work with other doctors and other men working there. And that'll be a very good one to cover to show you guys what's going on, just to prepare you guys that in case you ever dated one or if you're married to one, to watch out for all the red flags. Now, to keep things fair, it takes two to tango. So there's also doctors that do these things, and other men that work at the hospitals do these things, and they're a-holes too for cheating on their spouses. So for the ladies that watch, they gotta be aware of this as well. Now, let me just say this real quick disclaimer, because I always get people that hate on me. I'm not saying, and he's not saying, that every single medical professional, RN, doctor behaves in this way. We're not saying that, but we are saying it does happen so much that obviously this comes up quite often in the stories and personal emails that people send me and so forth. So making it very quite justifiable to report on this, talk about this, and help guys be aware of what they could be getting themselves into. That being said, he starts off and says, "Howdy SSM. I've been a subscriber to your channel for a good long while. I was amused by your 7-part saga about the Special Forces soldiers and their wives. Enthralling cautionary tale, by the way. And know that, yet again, a nurse was involved in the shenanigans." What he's talking about, guys, the 7-part series, that's on my other channel, They Did What. So if you guys haven't subscribed to that and you like crazy types of stories, definitely check it out when this video is over. Subscribe and check out that story about the Special Forces. It's one of the best ones I've ever covered. I made a comment on the video warning men to avoid involving themselves with the RNs and how I had horror stories about them, and a ton of your subscribers urged me to relay my take on nurses. So here I am fulfilling good on all for the bros. He says, my background: I am a nurse with approximately 8 years experience in broad number of specialties. I've worked all over the U.S. with many different demographics and ethnicities of nurses. I've worked in small town USA and major metropolitan cities, both East and West Coast. So I've had a decent sample size as to the types of gals that I work with. What I've seen over the course of my career has almost permanently scarred me from ever considering a fellow RN as a serious long-term partner. Okay, guys, so he is qualified. He is qualified for this report. Worked all over the country, big cities, small towns, all sorts of people he's worked with, different backgrounds. So he has a right to share his experience. It's not like he worked in one hospital and that's it. He's been all over. Let me make that clear for all the skeptics and haters that are going to somehow find this video. He says here, you've posted a video series about the RNs during the COVID crisis, and I can 100% affirm the validity of that one RN's experience with fellow RNs. I'd like to take the time to provide a hypothesis to why I believe this to be. He says here, any man in the RP community understands a woman's intrinsic desire to seek a suitable suitor she can respect. She can never love a man who cannot garner any degree of respect from her or others. Weak men are appalling to women, which is why so many of them end up in the friend zone. I've been saying that since day one. One of the most common things of the stories I go over, guys, both on this channel and the other one, about these guys that had these awful things happen to them is almost always these are really weak guys. They may have been a guy's guy with the guys, but when it comes to their wives or significant others, they put them on the pedestal, kiss their butt, and let them push them around, and they act weak. And the women lose all respect for them, and you all know how it goes. He says the friend zone is pretty much a chick telling you you're a weak man and unsuitable for a relationship. The same holds true in the medical community. In medicine, as an RN, you're routinely placed in positions where men hold positions of authority over a female. This occurs on a daily basis. Generally, it's a MD, but sometimes it's an NP/PA, CRNA, rapid response RN, or even a fellow RN that just so happens to be either in a position of authority or to be the type of man you turn to when things get rough. It is my belief this occurs subconsciously, the respect/attention dynamic. Nevertheless, it's my observation that RNs fall prey to this in spades. It's all about status. The man that's the leader, authority. It's attractive. I used to have a female client who is a female doctor. I enjoyed working with her. She's really cool. And guess what? During the guy she married was her boss, another doctor. Says here, consider this scenario. Jessica is a nurse who works in the ICU. She's married to Bob, who is an oil field worker. Bob's a good husband, hardworking, but when he returns home, he ain't nearly as fun as he used to be. Things are too routine right now. She's dealing with his good and bad side, and after a few years of this, the good ain't so good no more, and the bad's looking worse by the minute. Bob's gained a bit of weight, he ain't as fun, bedroom fun becomes too routine, and the dissatisfaction grows. Paradoxically, Josh is a chipper new resident at the hospital. Josh is intelligent, he's serious, flirty, cocky, successful, tall, and attractive. Josh always dresses well and seemingly has all the solutions to problems with her patients and always willing to help. Jessica works in a close proximity with Josh for 12 to 14-hour shifts at least 3 days a week, for weeks and months on end. Jessica finds herself curiously cheerful when Josh comes on shift and begins to joke with him and he with her. This is precisely where the rift between the RN and her spouse begins. This sounds about right to me. It makes sense. Now, let's just say what he's describing is totally accurate. Well, you can see things are already going downhill in this hypothetical scenario with the nurse and her husband. It sounds like, unfortunately, a typical marriage. So either it's work on it or end it. Unfortunately, you're going to see where this goes. Although a fictional story, I affirm, hand on heart, I've seen these types of scenarios play out from sea to shining sea for the past 8 years. I've worked. Sometimes the gals are single, sometimes they're engaged, and sometimes they're married. It matters little, it's nearly always the same. It doesn't even have to be a physician, by the way. It could be a charge RN, it could be a PA or NP, it could be a fellow RN who's always willing to help out, or he's intelligent, or he's tall, or he's in shape, attractive, etc. You get the point. So yeah, it isn't just doctors, it's other dudes that work in the medical facility. And by the way, those guys are hooking up with these gals, and they're guilty too. I'm not going to deny that, because they probably have girlfriends or wives and things like that, so that's not cool either. He says, what's so dangerous for any male married to an RN is unless you're always on point and outshining your competitors, most of which you aren't even aware of, you're liable to fall prey to this very scenario until you happen to stumble across some damning evidence or some kind and left to wondering where your marriage went wrong. What you as the husband failed to understand is you were in a continuous competition with other men vying for her attention and affection, and because you dropped your guard, your competitors got the better of you. Well, the thing is, it shouldn't be that way at all. Let's be honest here. And a lot of guys could be in that situation and wouldn't do anything, while sadly the gals do. I personally had married RNs hit on me on more than once, going so far as to send flirty messages and texting inappropriate photos. I've had RNs who were set to get married approach me where I'm working and innocently brush her busty chest into me, non-isolated incident. I had an RN who was engaged, imply desiring to interact with me, and found out they'd already been sleeping around with other men. I had another RN literally months away from marriage subtly flirt with me repeatedly. I've heard whispers of relationships blossoming through both parties involved were married. I know one scenario where a nurse gave birth to a child that wasn't her husband's and passed it off as his. He says in parentheses, get a paternity test, gentlemen. Although I was not in New York during the COVID crisis, I knew RNs who did go, and according to them, everyone was sleeping with everyone. He says that is verbatim SSM. I know one RN who left a child at home with her husband, who took a travel assignment during COVID and carried on a passionate affair with a fellow RN before returning home to her dutiful spouse. Does this sound like some of the stories I've covered, guys? I had another guy last winter who was a male RN, traveling RN, and he described a lot of what this guy's talking about right here. And again, how many stories have I covered? How many stories have you guys heard about? I mean, this is absolutely despicable. And again, the guys that hook up with these gals that work in the medical profession, they're scumbags too. But this is a men's channel, and I'm all about helping guys not get hurt and be aware of a reality, so I'm obviously focusing on this. He says, where I lived, I know RNs utilize this COVID time as a girls' weekend getaway trip. If I can describe the scenario, I'd like it to a dance floor, where everyone gets to pick a partner, and it was sort of understood you partnered up till the song ends. So best go grab the one you want and have a blast. Evidently, marital vows were also suspended during the COVID crisis, and if one wasn't in a relationship, all the better. You could do the hokey pokey with whomever you wanted, guilt-free. This went on for months, SSM. And I'm sure it has continued. It says here, if she's single, an RN over the age of 24 and even remotely attractive, I can promise your viewers she's been around the block so many times. You'd think she was on patrol. The truth is, she tried and failed to lock a high-value MD down, and you, being the ignorant fool that you are, think to yourself, oh wow, what a catch. I can't believe my luck. Well, you weren't. You simply happened to be the only idiot dumb enough to fall for her. What I tell you about how a lot of guys, they get to their mid, but especially late 20s, and all of a sudden the gals that wouldn't give them the time of day when they were younger were all of a sudden swooping in, and they're like, yes, I finally got her. I got a hot girl. I got a prize. When the reality is she settled for you because she's done with the carousel riding or couldn't get the guy she really wanted. Because either that guy wanted someone better or simply he's not dumb enough to settle. Right here. This theme keeps coming up over and over again. It's not an accident, guys. She's got a body count higher than the John Wick films. This latter scenario is the one I see play out most frequently in the hospital. The most depressing part is some of these men that get involved with these types of RNs are generally likable guys. Meaning the guys that marry them, not the guys they fool around with at the hospital or medical center. They think they stumbled across a rare diamond and are thrilled they finally got a shot with her. See? What do I always say? When the reality is, she feels like she settled with him and not the reverse. These gold-digging RNs only drop their pursuit of high-caliber men when it becomes apparent professional men, MDs, lawyers, successful real estate agents, bankers, etc., only want them for recreational use, and rather than remain single alone, they settle on a man that'll do. Again, sounds about right to me. And this is why so many marriages are that unhappy, because, yeah, she settled for you. Because the rest of the girls are getting rings on their fingers in their mid to late 20s. Because remember, that number 30 scares the crap out of so many, because that's when, in their mind, they're done. Well, let's be honest. A man's prime, as I said before, really begins in his 30s. Can go up to his 50s, depending. He takes care of himself and he's got his shit together. A typical gal's prime begins in her teens and goes up to like late 20s. Could be arguable early 30s, depending on how she takes care of herself and all that, but you get my point. So they want to get a dude before, as the prime is coming to an end. I reckon this new generation of gals have such a overinflated sense of self-worth. You got fours thinking that they're tens, and if you don't measure up to their psychotic, delusional metrics of what the perfect man is, you're subpar. Sounds about right. I believe these gold digger types consider themselves professionals and demand a man on their level or above. This personally infuriates me to no end, because some of the best men I've ever met are blue-collar workers. Truck drivers, electricians, plumbers, oil field workers, mechanics, and construction workers make the world we live in. Bro, I completely agree with you. Although I have a degree, I have the utmost respect for all these men that go out and work hard, and for college-educated women to disqualify them simply on the basis of some piece of paper strikes me as absurd. Yeah, and a lot of times these guys that seek a trade or in a profession which you described, they don't have the enormous amount of debt, student loan debt and all that, than these other guys that have advanced degrees. The guys that have maybe the advanced degrees that they consider to be the prize, they may make a higher income, but they have so much debt that at the end of the day, the dudes that may make less actually have more to put away and spend than the so-called professionals. But it doesn't make a difference. It's all about that piece of paper on the wall. It says a master's from the university of this or that, or you get my point. My first thought when I met a female RN who's single is, what's wrong with her? Because I don't know any female RN who's single for any length of time, and if she is, she's either having her fun looking for an MD or is approaching the danger zone, i.e. the 30s, and is looking for some chump to settle down with. I know one RN who is married in her late 20s and was something of a badge bunny. The poor guy she enslaved/married ain't got a clue how many men she's smashed. Another RN I entertained for a few dates. Through our conversations, it became apparent to me her number was probably around 40. Bullshit. Whatever that number you got, let's multiply times 3 or more. American Pie. American Pie 2. So I let that one fizzle. A buddy of mine told me about an RN who spent her entire 20s chasing physician after physician, but is quickly approaching 30. God be with any man who settles with her thinking he got himself a good gal. Another RN I dated, this was my RP journey SSM, was seeking me, but I found out after a while that she had hooked up with approximately 5 men under a month at the same time. She was on a journey of self-discovery. Yeah. And by the way, he just mentioned supposedly hooked up with 5 dudes in 1 month. Now, if guys did that, what are they labeled? Right? Those players. It's funny that those shows like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, where it's about a guy who hooks up with all these chicks. And women love that show, right? But they claim they hate the players and the bad boys and all that. I write all this to you, to your viewers, to caution them. What I witnessed has been so appalling. I've all but sworn off dating another RN for the rest of my life. If your audience chooses to date an RN, enter into it with eyes wide open. You ain't her first. If you're lucky, you might be her 12th. 90% divorce rates to college-educated women, 50% amongst RNs. I once worked on a unit where nearly every female on shift had been divorced at least once. If you were on the divorce honor roll and were on their 3rd marriage. Good Lord. These are the numbers, guys. Numbers don't lie. That's why I say I'm pretty sure it's always around 60% in the United States. 60%. That ain't going to work out. And go through the whole divorce process and splitting of the assets and the kids, the big mess. Welcome to today's world. It's not worth it. Now, I know I got a lot of guys that are conservative, and they do want to get married regardless of these things because of culture, religion, those type of things. That's their business. That's why I share these stories to help them become really aware of what to pay attention to, watch out. Also, really better themselves amongst many other things, and so hopefully this doesn't happen to them. But right here. It says here, another time I happened to be having a lunch, overhearing 2 RNs consoling a third, telling her just to go through the divorce as best she can because they've been through it already. The way they spoke about divorce sounded like it was tax season. It's just something everybody's got to go through. The sad state of marriage in the West and the declining quality of women, coupled with the megalomaniac egos of many of the fellow RNs, I ain't so certain they're worth the trouble. Gents. Recreational use only. I had something in my eyes. I was reading that. It is far more advisory to pursue your purpose, invest in yourself, work out, and grow as a person. And again, that's what I've been saying since day one. Focus on yourself. Self-improve. Make your life amazing. Spend your time doing what you enjoy, guys. And if you want to, have a gal on the side, okay, that's fine. That's what your thing is. Or if you're a relationship guy, at least you're making the most out of yourself, that you can attract what you want to attract, and you're not going to be pushed around. Because remember, guys that work on themselves, focus on self-improvement, their purpose, they, through success, they're feeling so good, they're not going to tolerate the type of disrespect you hear in all these stories. And the second any BS goes on, boom, they kick them to the curb like that because they know. They're not going to allow that because they feel great about themselves. And also, they've gained all this knowledge and learned to respect themselves, not take any BS. Check a gal when she's difficult and disrespectful. And when it comes down to it, kick her to the curb. So they're less likely to deal with any bullshit like these guys in these stories. But yes, focus on yourself, your purpose, your goals. Be the best you can be. Stay in good shape, stay healthy. Do the things you enjoy. Happiness comes from within, guys. You're not going to get happiness from other people. And that is one of the biggest mistakes that so many people make, both men and women. It goes both ways. It comes from within, not getting from somebody else. If you rely on somebody else for your life's happiness, you're going to be disappointed every time. It says, disclaimer, simply because you're married to an RN doesn't necessarily mean she'll cheat. So you had to make that point. I would liken it to a girl's trip. There may be some women out there who you can trust with a girl's trip, maybe. But given all the god-awful stories you've relayed to us, why risk it? Same with RNs. If you're married to one, be on guard and on point. If you're engaged, I strongly advise reevaluating it if it's worth it. And if you're dating, well, have your fun, but don't take her too seriously. I apologize for the long email, and I sincerely hope this helps my fellow brothers out. Dude, don't apologize. This is great. This is very revealing. Y'all don't got to worry about me, as I respect the bro code, but there may not be as many honorable men out there. Thank you for all you do, and Godspeed to your viewers. Oh man, that was a very interesting and informative email you sent me. I like to hear that it's like confessions of a male RN, what's going on behind the scenes, and backing up a lot of the things that I've talked about, the stories I've gone over. It'd be one thing if I just read one story and that was that. But when I've heard this over and over and over again, you guys have too, whether it's your own personal experience or from other channels, whatever, there's something to it. And you got a guy here that's been doing this for a while. Like I said, different parts of the country, big cities, small towns, gals of different backgrounds. It's the same story over and over. There's something to it. And like you said, doesn't mean they're all going to do that, and I believe that. But enough to do that, you got to be careful and cautious. So, guys out there, you guys that date and do relationships, be careful. That's all I can say. And the gals that watch me, the 4% of girls that watch me, you got a husband or boyfriend in the medical field, keep an eye out for the red flags too, because you don't deserve it. Believe me, the girls that watch me, that actually watch me on this channel, the 4%, the 4%ers that watch me, and the ones that don't hate on me, they're welcome to the club, and they're obviously have the same views that I do and you guys do, and we don't want them hurt too. And there are scumbag guys out there. I'm not going to deny that. So you gals can be careful too. So this story is helping everybody, not this email about facts and what's going on. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let this guy know what you think. Let everybody know what you think, your experience with this type of thing. If you dated gals like this, if you had a friend that dated a gal like this, the good stories, the bad stories, share away, guys. We all like to read these things, and it helps each other out. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.